This conference will now be recorded.
We will call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Dale Schmidt.
Here.
Annette Ovinger. Here. Leroy Bolt. Tracy Flukie. Here. Jessica Atkinson is excused, and Kyle Gigo.
Here.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a motion for ultimate on the agenda. What changes anybody want to make to the agenda? I said the motion to approve the agenda.
I had a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Dale, and 1 second. Second by Annette. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, next item is action on the minutes. Let's start with the bike and ped committee meeting, obviously. May 10th, the 3:30 meeting.
So the only thing I had is, Rex, so maybe you can talk about that. Is there any updates? You had something on that on the Main Street Trail. Something about residents that approved that and 2 out of 3 approved it.
I lost it.
Okay, there was something,
Is this in the minutes?
it was in, from 510, that's way back. You had updates on the Main Street Trail. And you had something about 2 or 3 of the residents had approved it. And I didn't know if that trail is going any further. If
I can.
If you don't need to do, you can wait till you're.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
2 out of the 3 property owners on for the new trail extension had signed at that time.
Okay.
And since then, they've all signed the agreement, and the
Okay.
project is out for bid and will open on July 20th.
The only correction I have is on page 3 under the item D, action on bike ped plan. Second sentence, impetus is spelled wrong. IMPET-less.
Spell check.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
We talked, we tell them like, this must be important. So what is this? She goes, well, you said that, Tracy. I'm like, oh.
Okay, it's good, it's fixed now.
All right. Any other corrections or anything to the May, what was it, May 10th meetings, minute meetings? So I look for a motion to approve.
I'll approve with the 1 correction. We approve with 1 correction. No second.
Move to second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of special meeting minutes from May 24th at 3:30. That was the meeting that we had to go through the documents for the village board. Any corrections or any changes to that?
I didn't see nothing. I'm going to motion to approve it.
Second, resolve.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. And then our last set of minutes is June 14th. Any corrections or changes to that one? Anyone?
Does it have on there that Tracy's chastised the 3 young boys on the bikes?
No, we left that out. Yeah. I was like,
There was something in there about prioritizing intersection upgrades. Are we doing that at this meeting? I think that was, did Doug ask for that?
Yeah, Doug asked for that, and then we had talked about it a little further, I think, later, and we had asked him to put his list together, his priorities together first,
Okay.
get that back to us, and then for us to kind of review it and see what we think. But if you have some too that you think should be a priority, please, just note them. But we thought it was probably better to have Doug do that, just because he's done all research, he's the engineer, he has an eye for all that stuff, so to have him kind of get his priority list first.
And I think part of the priority list, if I remember,
is there are limited funds available. And he said, with this money, we could either do one intersection or maybe 3 others, depending on what work needs to be done. So I guess we're gonna try to prioritize, with that in mind, how much work can be done in 1 year.
Because he had something in there also too. They have access to possibly some COVID money or something. I thought there was.
No, I thought he said
Unless
something like
I
that,
read
but I
that.
don't know if.
It doesn't make any
Yeah.
difference. We'll let you
But I know it was in there. And we
I
discussed
thought he
it.
noted that it was yet to be determined.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought
there
too.
was something
Yeah.
like that. I didn't know that they had access, possible access to that money.
So yeah, that's where we left it. I can't remember what our timeline was for him to get back. It's really soon, I thought.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
recall.
remember. So we'll double check with him when he can get that information to us. Any other questions or anything else on the June 14th minute? Otherwise, I look for a
I'm
motion.
gonna vote to approve this
Motion by Dale,
motion.
I'll second it.
second by Kyle. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, any comments from the public? We don't have any in the room. And I don't believe Kevin, he's from the paper. Any comments from anybody that's remotely on? Mario, I know you're here. You can wait till Wello's on list, or if you need to go, we could certainly talk about something first if you'd like to do that.
Nope, either works for me, so whatever works better for your schedule.
Okay, sounds good. Then we'll wait until we get to your section, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so no comments from the public then. We'll go to our action items. First one is review of DNR letter from 2004 regarding the Pedestrian Trails. And I'm gonna just hand that off to Rex. Or
Sure, so, yeah, no, I can take that. So this letter is from Rettler, when we were working with Rettler to build the trail. And it listed some standards that were apparently agreed upon by multiple people for trail maintenance. And one of the things that was put on there for stormwater purposes was not plowing the trail and not salting the trail. So I called up Pedestrian, who is our DNR rep. She referred me to Joe Baton, who's the supervisor for the Northeast region of the DNR's stormwater management program. Joe and I had a good conversation after going back and forth playing phone tag for a while. But apparently what this letter is, or how this works, is with Packland being an older trail, whenever they had an individual project, they gave individual letters out like this on how to treat stormwater management practices. One of my questions to Joe was, how come on the trails, this is the only trail that we have this letter on? And he said that since then, for all projects, they're now kind of covered under the, is it MS4?
Yep.
Am I saying that right? So under the MS4 agreement of good housekeeping practices for stormwater management, all of the trails are included in that now, all newer trail projects. He said, but because this is, specifically talking about the Packerland Trail, what the village would need to do is send him an email specifically listing how they would like this letter changed. So we talked about what we currently do. We currently maintain the trail. We currently sweep the trail. I mean, if there's a stormwater thing that's blocking water, we obviously unplug it. If there's a spill on the trail, which we've never really had a spill on the trail, but if there would be, obviously our guys would take care of it. So pretty much everything in there except the plowing and salting still holds true. And we discussed that. And so regardless of how the discussion at the village board level goes, I said, let's just start the ball rolling on this. And I just sent them an email saying that the village is requesting, because we don't have to do it, we can just keep it however, but the village is requesting to plow the trail and to salt the trail. And would the DNR be okay with that? Should the village board want to do those housekeeping, the winter trail maintenance type of thing? And that was sent to him, and then he said he would need to touch base with some other people within his cadre of circle of supervisors, I guess. And that's what I'm waiting on for that. So I just figured that we would probably want that done. So I just requested it to plow it and to salt it, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. So that ball's kind of in motion right now.
So when did you get the email out? It's been recent or a few, it's been a while, like you haven't heard back?
Last week. It was
Last week,
week.
okay. So it's been a long way. Okay. Sounds good. Does he give any idea how long this will be or anything?
The city needs to talk over a couple of his.
Okay.
So just, I have one question, and maybe you didn't discuss this, but Hobart plows there's part of the trail, don't they?
Someone is. I don't know who is.
We had talked to, I had talked to Aaron Kramer, who's the administrator in Hobart, and he had indicated that they do not, the village themselves do not plow that. So someone is taking it upon themselves to maintain that section of trail. But the village themselves are not.
Yeah, we don't know who, and, is it right? I mean, do we tell them to stop? Do we not tell them to stop? Someone's doing the same thing down at the Ashwaubenon River Trail. I mean, it's so flat. It's one of the residents is taking it on. All part of that trail for the residents, on their own.
Yeah.
So but this is a little bit different only because there could be ramifications for doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've already asked them permission. Can we just plow it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like water over the dam because it's already being done in some sections by somebody.
Right.
I think it's right to be proactive.
Oh, yeah, you can't,
Why not? do it?
you can't do it and just hope that they'll give you forgiveness. You have to.
Well, I would think and Joey, you probably worked with MS4 stuff more recently than I have, but with MS4, it's the requirements that the whole village has to meet to be able to meet your stormwater requirements. And maybe this was prior, like you said, prior to those requirements being really stringent, so then they handle it in a different way.
The biggest thing that Joe said is typically, if you choose to salt it, you need to report how much salt you're putting down. And I talked with Doug about that, and Doug just said that, if the village board approved trail maintenance for the winter months, we would just keep track of whatever contractor we're contracting with, the amount of salt being put down, that would be added on to the grand total of what's already being put down on the streets. And Joel is comfortable with that when I talk.
And this is really only the southern piece, correct? This is a 2004. So that would have impacted that section, right?
Well,
Not the north.
that's another good point, because this section, that this letter, even though it just says the Packerland Trail.
Right.
But what Rattler did is basically from Wabi to Fernanda. So that's
the southern
it's the
section.
southern section
Okay.
that this grant, that this letter was
Referred to.
would be from Wabi to.
Okay. Because the county would have done the northern piece. That was their project. They built that one rather than the village when that was constructed.
Yeah, that was
in the
under
90s.
your watch.
That was when I was
Yeah.
here, yeah. It was 90s, late 90s maybe, I don't remember exactly. All right, so that's great. I'm glad that you were able to get that moving forward, and hopefully we'll get response that we can follow it. And maybe have to keep track of how much salt goes down or whatever, which will be a big deal.
If I don't hear from them within about a week or so, I'll give them a call back, because I'm sure that the village board will want that
Yes.
information if it comes to them
Yep.
at the joint.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions for Rex or anything else you want to add, Rex? No?
Not on this one.
Okay. Everybody all right with that? Great. Yeah, if you can find out prior to village board, that would be nice.
Sure.
All right, thank you. So this is informational only, really no motion on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The next item is discussion of possible action on finalizing the clearing of trails presentation to the village board. And I want to thank the members that were able to come to our meeting where we kind of went through it and tried to finalize a little bit. I took the comments that we had at that meeting and put them into the document. I may have missed stuff. I may have added things to it, but hopefully you had a chance to look at the revised document. So maybe we can just start with that. If there's anything, I looked at all my notes. and added things in. It's fairly similar. I took out the winter, like the document that talked about winter mission, because we talked about that, not including that. So I did allude to it a little bit, but I didn't get so in depth in that. I put in, we had talked about clearing the trails in 48 to 72 hours, and also a snowfall greater than 2 inches. I put that in there. I rounded up the trail distance, so it wasn't so hard to read. So I know it was 3.03 or something like that, but I rounded all that so it's easier to read. I think what else? I kind of tweaked the beginning a little bit.
Do you have any responses to the public? 84%, because I don't remember that.
I did.
She has
That
that.
was from the survey, towards the bottom of my letter.
It's in there towards the end.
So I picked out the parts that you guys had talked about.
I'm not going crazy, you did add it.
From the survey, yep, it is in there. And then the comments I picked out, now the comments, I had those marked, but I wanted you guys to double check those are the ones, or if there was any other ones that I missed, but those are the 3 that I had checked when we talked about. I did add about we're adding apartments and condos, and that I think came up when we were talking, and that we might have more people that would travel through the community that live there by foot and bike.
So in my notes, so after I read this, it's under scope. And it's probably a simple answer, but I wasn't sure. What's industrial park trail? What does that mean? It says 1.3 miles industrial park.
So that's between Wabi and West Main that goes along the creek.
Okay.
So maybe a locator on there, so people understand where that is better. I mean, with the map.
Well, we should have the trail map,
The trail map would be attached,
which is it's attached, it would show the
yeah,
industrial park trail.
yeah, and it is part of that document. That would be attachment A, I think.
There it is.
Yeah, attachment A. Would show that trail.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, it's in green.
So it is due east of the Packer Line Trail.
Where do you have that map?
So it's the sidewalk and trail plowing.
Is that in this?
Yeah.
Yes. Keep turning
Go to
it.
the left.
So go back.
Go to the left. Oh. That
Yeah,
one?
left.
You're the left.
Oh, there
There
we
you
go.
go.
Okay, Rex, where are you?
So you're at the bottom.
Yep.
And you see maybe, so if you see Sand Acres Park,
Yep.
just go due north and that first green line that you'll get that
Oh,
between Main and Wabi.
okay. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Goes right on the creek. Pretty much. It's a nice little trail.
It is.
It is. It's
Yeah, a
beautiful.
lot of people use that who work in the industrial park.
Yeah.
For lunch breaks.
Yeah, yeah,
I see people walking there quite often.
I do too. During the day, at night, I mean, anytime.
I didn't know that's what you call it. I use quite a
Yeah.
bit when I'm biking.
Is that the-
What do you call it?
Trail.
That
The
trail?
trail, the trail, the Wabi Trail. So I don't know, anyone, is there anything I really missed in there? Anything you think should be reworded, things that we need to add that I totally missed? in
So
there?
the only other note I had is where you had, the village is actually adding apartments, condominiums along with what I would want to emphasize along with that, if we could somehow word it, is also the increased residential area. Because those people that are in the new subdivisions, they're gonna run those streets, or they're gonna try and get across towards the other subdivision
Yeah.
by the park.
Yeah.
But they're still gonna be running streets.
Okay.
And they're right next to the path.
Yeah.
So if they would open that up, it would be really nice, because they'd have a, yeah, loop,
Yeah.
exactly. I
Okay,
don't know how we wordsmith it.
Yep.
To make it in addition to the condominiums.
Yeah.
The condominiums is important.
well, maybe just add something about we're adding residential development to the southwest section of the village, and it's important there as well, or something like that. We could just tag that into that paragraph.
Yeah.
And then we're hitting, because that's really the area that we're adding more subdivision. We don't really have anywhere else in the village, correct, Joel or Rex, that we're adding subdivisions to be down there. So if I add that in there,
Well, the riverfront, I mean, you've got.
Oh,
housing
yeah.
development.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yes. Totally correct that.
I think just the concept of residential development, because there's a lot of, even along like McCarthy Way, now there's accommodation there, but that's gonna, be a mixed use development with high density residential, the merge development, the senior housing.
Sure.
Yeah,
Not a good case here because you have the facilities, sidewalks, but just the added density, the added users to the system.
I think density is an important word to, because, the village, it's up until recently, it's been single-family homes and with the few apartments along the highways, but now you're getting away from those areas and you're going up.
Yep.
Changing.
Yep.
So about, I'll have to reread it again, so I'm a big CNBC fan for some reason, but so right now they've got you guessing as to what's the state where most corporations are moving to right now. And they're going to give that an email tomorrow. And they just do a little background. You got to try and guess where they are. But number 3 or number 2 on it was quality of life.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
So they could draw people in to work.
Yep.
And it was actually above wages.
Oh, I believe it.
So it was interesting.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna do, because this just came on this afternoon,
Yeah.
is see if I could find something on the internet where they talk about, it, especially after he gets done tomorrow and gives out what the name of the city is.
Yep.
And then do a little more research.
It'd be nice to know the top three too.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
probably like
yeah.
there's a third and then what 1 and 2 is, nice to
I
know.
didn't tape it, but I'm sure I can go back in YouTube and find that.
Okay, so maybe if we tweak that second to last paragraph and add in that we're just adding more multifamily, more residential, and the density is greater or something like that, and that's all pushing more for year-round community, people able to move and walk through the community better. So that could just be reworded a little bit. So that's all right, okay, now we'll hit that. I don't know if you guys want to list out the members of the, I just signed it as the Ashwaubenon Vice from Pedestrian Committee. Do we want to list out the numbers, maybe you guys support it or not? You do?
I would.
Okay. What do you think about putting Randy on there? He's been involved for a long time. I realize he's no longer on the committee, but he was very instrumental in getting, kind of pending stuff, or we should just put current.
Well, you can put them on there. Yeah, he was pretty dedicated to emeritus for sure.
Yeah, Meredith, there you go. There you go. I was trying to think of a term.
I'd be careful because if anybody wants to call him for information, he's not technically on the committee though. Is he going to be willing to answer questions? And then he's going to say, well, I'm not on the committee anymore. And I said, well, now there's a discrepancy. So you just be careful of.
Yeah, I think you have to just retired or
You could put the years he was on here. It's from 1991.
1902.
Yeah, 1902. Whatever. So you could put like listed as emeritus on the years that he's been on or something, and people would know that he's no longer on it.
Or you could just use word former.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
2003 or 2004, but this was one.
Was that recent? I thought it was earlier than that, but
It was a couple of years before I came on.
was it? Okay. Okay, so I'll just do that. We'll just put
Maybe
one.
do 3.
Okay.
Like you'd be within a year or 2.
Okay. All right.
He said, I actually sent him an email after he left. And his response was that he would still be very supportive of this group. So it's not like we couldn't lean on that we need to for.
Yeah, I think it would help too. Okay, so we'll add all numbers, we'll add Randy. Any other changes, you guys, on this that you see or something? I said that I told him this, so was Joel, Rex, anything that you guys, Joel, you were at the meeting to hear everything too, so I don't know, or Susie, you were too, so if there's anything I really missed that we want to add.
The other thing I caught, Tracy, and I don't want to get technical here, I want to, because
Yes.
they're it's the high level thing we're trying to
Yes.
sell here, right? But you had in there travel by foot or bicycle, and you're, what did you put that? This is with regards to the apartments. Year round.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to emphasize also that there's a lot of people, it is walking, it is bicycling, but it also is exercising, it's running, it's
Yep.
If we can somehow add some words in there in additional, for physical, I don't know what the term would be.
I did put it in under the very first reason for request, when, you guys are getting requests, and it was from recreation to transportation, fitness, for the environment,
Oh,
and
yeah.
most recently, an increased interest in the health benefits of winter exercise. So I did put,
Yep.
kind of listed the different reasons that maybe you were approached or that people would ask for it. So it is up, but it's up a few comments up. And then I brought in biking because biking is increasing, through COVID, and just like walking and running are. It's more and more people. So then at one point I just added biking in there, but most of the time I just referred to walking and more walking, so.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I think people want, even like to go to a ball game there, rather than trying to take your car, take a bike, and if you're close enough, make it easy.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? And the other question I have, the attachment B is the document that Joel put together. It's a sidewalk and trail, no removal. It's that box. I know that should be up. Where's the front of it? There we go. Do we want to keep that as attachment B? Attachment B is really, I listed as a list of communities, their costs and their policies, but it really doesn't go into that as far. And is there a value to add that in there? That was my question as I was looking at that. I thought Joel had something more in depth that we had looked at, and I could not find it. Maybe Joel, I'm dreaming on that one, I don't know. But I guess my question is, do you think that is a good document to have on there and kind of is in a good spot where it's listed on there, or if it is not?
Well, I think anything that shows how many miles are being cleared in the
Yeah, that's what I was
I mean, it shows that we're not
alone.
alone. This isn't, we're not inventing the wheel on this. That other communities are already doing it.
Okay.
Right, so I think, that's what the intent is.
Okay.
That should be included.
Yeah, that's the way I read it.
Okay.
Rex. I had one other one that I'm just curious of. So you had, Joel, you may have come up with these numbers, but with the cost, $2.19 annually based on $159,200 home. How many properties are we actually talking? I mean, does this include businesses or is this just home? So this is everything that's in the village. And they're gonna know those answers, so we don't gotta get specific. This is approximate what it would cost.
Just as you had mentioned, just that high level overview, the average homeowner at $160,000 home on their tax bill will see a $2.19.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
You can kind of rationalize it, scale it up or down based on the value of your business.
And the school district does that all the time when they're looking for money. They'll say, on an average home, here's what it's going to cost.
Right.
I think one of the things that we could do based on the 219 is just also put in parentheses what that cost is per 100,000 value. So 219 is based on the 159, but dependent on the value of your property that will be based.
Yeah, the lower we can get the number, the better.
Well, I think the average is good, but I think, not everybody
No,
has a $159,000 house.
Great.
A lot of people have $300,000.
Yeah.
What is 300,000?
So then it ends up being $4 or something.
$6 something.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if there's a way we can word it better, Joel, that's fine. If you want to wordsmith that to make it clearer or easier to understand, that's
Well,
great.
For them, even for yourself, right, money talks. You got a budget, you got to work with it. Now we got to go to taxpayers.
Yeah.
And they have to respond to taxpayers. So I get where they're coming from, but yet, to me, we spend money on many other things in this village. So, anyway.
Okay, anything else on that, just the document itself? We got the 2 attachments, there'll be the map, and that'll be Joel's information that will go on there. Anything else to add to the document? Otherwise, we'll plan on that, and we're gonna go to the July 27th, is that correct?
I think that's what you had.
Yeah, 7/27 village board meeting.
Who's going to that?
That's the question I would.
I think you are on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't been to the board meeting.
I would encourage as many of you to come as you can.
I think that's
I think it'd
important.
be great.
Any citizen,
Yep.
citizen members,
Yep.
I think it's important
Yep.
for any committee that is recommending anything to the village board, that as many committee members as possible should try and do that. I think, not necessarily all individually speak, but just, a show of
Yeah.
support as.
Yeah, I think that would be overwhelming if everybody tried to put their 2 cents in.
Yeah.
So that was my next question, because I've never presented to your board, right? People have. So what typically happens is one person, because they're gonna have this, right?
Right.
Is it, because they don't want to give us a half hour, are they gonna give us 5 minutes, or is it normally like 5 minutes, explain why we want this? That's pretty much in the document.
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple things. So one, I think what my recommendation would be, have myself introduce the topic. I know Tracy had talked about maybe having Rex do it. I think just because of the high level policy nature of this, I would introduce the topic, basically describe that this committee has been working for the better part of probably 3, 4, 5 months now.
Yep.
On this proposal, recognizing that they were trying to meet a timeline to have this worked into the budget for next year and be implemented for next year. They have a variety of pros or reasons behind the recommendation. And then I would introduce someone from the group to kind of work through it. I personally, I know it seems a little redundant, but there's 2 reasons for it. One, what I was going to say is that you basically take your memorandum that you have and you go through that and paraphrase that to the group. 5, 10 minutes. If you read it word for word, I think that's okay too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not,
Yeah,
but
yes.
and the reason why I say that is not every trustee, for as much as we'd like to think that they do,
read it.
is going to read it. And 2, there are members from the public that are either in the meeting and don't have access to the packet or are watching online and they don't.
And it's not an exceptionally long
Right.
document. It can be done, like you said, in 5 to 10 minutes.
Again, paraphrase. You don't have to read it word for word, but you can take the highlights that you have in that order that you have them. I think the trustees, I tend to see the trustees kind of follow along better that way. There's some consistency to it. And now they recognize that here's the formal request.
Okay.
And that's what I would recommend. And then at that point, it'll be up to the board to deliberate. There are a couple options that the board could take. I'll be frank and upfront with you. I don't know that they necessarily have to make a formal decision at the meeting on the 27th, because this is more of a request, a policy change to be included as part of the budget. But we want to make sure that this is upfront. It's within the forefront of their minds as they go into budget deliberations, so that it is an item that is definitely discussed, right?
Yep.
They don't know the big picture yet, so when you come out of that meeting on the 27th, don't be discouraged if they say, well, we need to kind of take this into consideration with all other spending, right?
Sure.
And we're going to prioritize it, but thank you very much for bringing this to our attention, and this will definitely be something that.
So would that mean one of our departments puts it into the budget, and then during the budget deliberations, they can accept it, tweak it, or deny it?
Right. Because I think it will be difficult to get a unilateral decision from the board saying, yep, absolutely, this has to be done this year. I just see that being a challenge for them. Just based on my experience with other boards. Well, you gotta kind of see how it all impacts the bigger picture, right? But as Rex had mentioned, getting some direction from them to say, yes, Rex, include this in your budget for next year so that we can deliberate and have that discussion. I think that would be a win for this group, because now they have it as a priority for them to include it.
Should we ask that it be put in the budget in a specific place? Should we say, we'd like this included in the park department, the street department, whatever, or should we just kind of?
I don't know that it necessarily matters as far as the location, but I think a request we request the village to adopt a policy of winter clearing and to allocate X number of dollars. We have a range of $25,750 to about $31,000. Include that in the 2022 budget, and whether that fits in the parks budget or the streets budget, more than likely it'll fall under snow and ice clearing on the street side. that'll be included in that budget then at that. And then they can deliberate when they get to that point later on. And then I also will emphasize that it will likely be important for, and I know Tracy will be an advocate as a trustee and as a committee member, to be involved in the budget process as they start talking through those things. That it's not a one and done that you presented it. That's it. You'll want to stay advocates for this effort, because if no one is advocating for it when they start to prioritize budget needs, it'll be very easy for them to just plop it out.
Well, there may be other requests besides our request as well. So do they actually do a preliminary and then they go back to the department managers to see if they can cut in areas, or do they?
I'm still learning the Ashwaubenon way, but
okay.
from what I understand of it, obviously, we're going to be going to finance and personnel this month with a budget calendar that outlines the process that we'll use. Part of that process here, and let me back up. What I'm intending to do here is kind of follow what methodology the village has done in the past in my first year. So after my first year, then I may make some modifications to that. But I don't want to rock the boat. I want to see what works and what doesn't. At the end of the day, department heads will be submitting their budgets to finance. Finance then sits down with myself and President Kardowski, and then each department head, we kind of prioritize based on that. And once that draft budget is done, then it kind of comes back forward to village board for deliberation and ultimate approval.
Okay.
So
Some may fit, it may not fit.
So once we find out, and hopefully it's going to be included in the budget deliberations, so once we find out it's going to be under snow and ice, is there an opportunity to be at that meeting where they?
yes, yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that'll likely, by that point, we're in the September, October. Final budget adoption is always in November. So if it gets to final budget adoption in November, and this is your first time getting involved and advocating on that, it's probably too late. So you want to stay involved in September, October. Because by November, by and large, municipalities want to have everything kind of polished, if you will, and it's more of just a procedural issue than it is a deliberation issue.
I need to put my 2 cents in on something, as we're talking about this. I think of what could happen based on the makeup of some of our board members and some of their individual feelings and so on and so forth. And I know we talked about this before and we decided not to. We've kind of moved forward with this as an all or none. I still think even if we don't have it on paper, what are our top 2, 3, 4 trail projects? Like what, if they say that's too much money, let's try 1 or 2 trails and see how it works. How many times do we actually have to clear them? What's it actually going to cost on a busy winter? Even if we don't put it down, and then you can agree with me or not, I still think maybe in our minds, we need to have an answer of what our top trails may be in case there's some people that say we don't want to do them all. Which ones do you want to try on a trial basis type of thing? I'll throw that out there and you guys can discuss it. But I see that as something that could potentially happen or be brought up.
Can we put that on next meeting's agenda? That way it's in front of us again so that we see.
We don't have time.
Next meeting.
Up to you guys.
You have time next meeting?
No,
But
but we're going to go before the village board this month.
So you want the priorities even this?
That's up to you. I would probably, if you have a couple of, like, what's your priorities? And I'm not going to say anyone's going to say anything.
But
But
we need to be prepared for that.
Correct. You don't even have to have anything on paper, but to have an answer ready, then it looks like at least we're prepared with, if there's a particular board member that asks that question. Even though, granted, I know everyone wants to do the all, everything. I get that, but
Well, and when you think about it, Rex, I see what you're saying, but how do you pick one? How do you leave out some? Because if I leave out in your neighborhood, is that fair to you and I'm doing in that neighborhood? So that, it's like, how do you pick the ones that are priority or not? And then the other thing is,
I understand.
it's only 3,000 a year per mile. So let's say you cut a mile out or 2 miles out, you're cutting out $6,000. And the
I
total cost of
understand that, but again, knowing some of our board members, they're not going to look at it that way, or they might not look at it that way. I see them saying, we want to try it out on a trial basis on this trail to see how it works. What trail do you want to try it out on? And I don't know if that will happen or not, it might not. But again, it's a potential situation that could happen. We might want to be ready for it. I don't know.
Would they need that response immediately?
No.
Or if they ask us that question, would we have like our next meeting to make that decision?
That's what I'm saying.
You can state that. Yeah, we'd be happy to discuss that at our next meeting. We're looking for the whole, but if that's what your druthers are, we can make that recommendation.
So we are doing,
I know.
because you're meeting for your first budget this month?
There's time in the
Preliminary?
budget process, that we could,
Oh,
if they, let's say they do say what Rex says, they say, you pick your top one, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
So then it comes- And maybe they will, I don't know. So then it comes back here, we have plenty of time, because budget, like Joe said, is not finalized till November. Sure, October and September, we would have to have a final number. So then maybe by then, we know village board has said, we want one. That's it, that's all you're gonna get.
And I
So
feel
then-
awkward bringing it up, and I apologize if I'm.
Well,
stepping
no,
on
and I'm
toes.
not,
But
you're right. I mean, it could happen.
here's the thing too. If they want us to, if someone or the board decides, okay, we'll try it, see how it works, and they scoff at it, but try it on this trail, and it works fabulously, that's gonna open the door then to the other ones being done.
mhm.
If they say you have to do it as a trial and pick one or two trails as a trial, and that works out well, and the costs aren't astronomical, out of the wheelhouse of what we think they are, then potentially in future years, they're gonna say, you know what, that worked out pretty good, there's a lot more people using them than we ever thought would be using them. Let's look at doing the other ones.
To me, from
I don't know,
my time in sales, if somebody said, well, we can only do one, we've sold them. They've agreed that we're gonna do one. So I think we grab that if, we would love to have them all, but if they said, I just don't think I can sit 30, but if we could do 3 or 4, like Rex says, once we get our foot in the door, because if they say, well, they're not saying we're not gonna do it, they're agreeing to do some.
The only question I would add is they did 1 or 2 or however many, how are they gonna collect it down? As to who used it.
well, I'm gonna tell you,
When they use it.
again, I'm jumping out here, and I can.
Well, no, I appreciate
later on
it. We need you to.
If you want me to, but the one I get the most calls on is the Ashwaubenon River Trip, because the people in Mansell Flats are rabid about walking their dogs and getting out and exercise. That's why they bought, or they're renting where they're renting. So if you're going to do one, and someone's already helping out by doing part of that trail, they want it so bad. So if you're going to do one, and again, I'm not a voting member of the committee, I'm, just a representative of the village, but if you're going to do one, my recommendation would be, that's the one that you try, because that's the one that you already know a lot of people are being used, and they're vocal. So if they're excited and they like the fact that we're plowing and it's working out well for them, they're going to be talking and letting people know how much they appreciate it. And then that's going to start, I'm only guessing what might happen, but you're going to get the most feedback off of doing that trail.
And the most support. And a year from now, when they do the budget again, that's gonna be hard to take that away from those people. If we do the industrial park trail and none of the residents talk about it, because the people who walk it are the people who live outside of the village and walk at their lunch hours. They aren't the ones that are gonna be calling the board and saying, what do you mean you're not gonna plow that anymore? The people that are residents are gonna hold more sway with the board.
But you're gonna get the same thing out in
Yes,
Park, Wabi. There are residents in my neighborhood that use that all the time. So that, you're gonna get that. You may not be as vocal, but when I was out, and there's a lot of people that use it in that area, just like there's a lot of people that use Ashwaubenon River Trail.
Well, it's one thing for this board to go to the village board and say, here's what we'd like. But maybe I'm wrong, I've never run for office. But to me, if the voting public is calling their trustees, the trustees are gonna listen to them
Sure.
maybe with a different ear than they're gonna listen to us. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No, you do. I mean, obviously, I am hearing it from my neighborhood, that my residents are saying we want these cleared, because when you look at the area that I live in, there's not a lot of sidewalks, there's very few. So when those trails are not available, people are really limited in where they can go to get on a sidewalk or trail. So it's a problem.
Well,
Because they can't go on Lucky, they can't go on Packerland. So I hear that,
Yeah.
So it is, but I think starting off with everything, and if it comes to, we gotta pick. We have time to pick.
Yeah.
It can come back here 2 times, 3 times before it goes to the board for final approval, Rex could put, some money in or however we want to do it, and we go from there, and then we adjust it as we need to.
I don't know that it would be a problem, though. I like Rex's idea of having a priority from the standpoint of helping establish your argument. The reason why I'm saying that is when you look at this map and you look at the trails that are being proposed to be maintained, they're all somewhat different. And what I mean by that is Mansell Flats, the Ashwaubenon River Trail, to me, that's more for recreation, exercise, fitness, right? It's not necessarily connecting A to B. It's to give an outlet for the people that live in that somewhat confined area. So the priority is pretty important for those residents that live on Mansell Flats. And then you look at like on Argonne Street and connecting some of those areas, really small segment. But here we have a segment that connects an existing pedestrian path sidewalk to an area that hasn't been maintained before. And so there's connectivity issues there. Transportation becomes more of a priority there than it does recreation. The industrial park trail, different in itself as well. Here, as some of you have mentioned, the employees of the industrial park probably take quite an advantage of that trail on their lunch breaks and their breaks. And they may not necessarily be residents, but they're employees of these businesses. And if there's anything we've learned over the last 6 months, finding good employees is hard. And if we can get our employers to provide these benefits like a walking trail nearby for their employees, maybe that's enough to sell them in employing here. And then Packerland, I look at it as that's really just a connecting point. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope that you guys would correct me on this, but I see that more of a transportation need than it is an exercise fitness. Do people use Packerland Trail for fitness reasons, or is it really just to get?
They do, both,
recreation?
and transportation. Yeah,
So I think, having that discussion with the board is, why couldn't you guys narrow this down or prioritize it? I think that helps create some justification too as to why you included everything. Because every area that you've included on your map to be maintained has its own kind of special need. So I would start there. I think, Rex, you're right. I think prioritizing is certainly a good thing because it's inevitable that that's what boards do is they try to, okay, you asked for 50, can you get by with 25? Because they like to pinch pennies, right? That's what they get elected to do. So for 25, what can you get by with?
Okay.
Sorry.
no, that's good.
Sorry.
And we talked earlier about prioritizing which trails we wanted to plow when we first started talking about it.
Well, and it's just so hard to prioritize. That's my whole thing. Is those trails are in so many different areas of the community. And then if you do the river trail, how do you tell people on the southwestern, we're not doing your trail? Sand Acres, those people out there are rabid. They want that trail done. And a lot of people talk to me about that. So that's another really well-used. So
I can just see our board saying, try 1 or 2 or however much on a trial basis, and then we'll see how it works. So then we'd have to come back and discuss. I don't know. I don't know that.
And
Like you said, hopefully that keeps the door open though. If they say, yeah, I'll try it, that opens the door then. That's
And I
not,
like your idea
it's not
because there's multiple people down there. It's not a few houses. It's a big building with a lot of people, if it comes to that.
Right.
The way I look at this as a committee member is our job is to get some minds opened up
I'd like to take a bus and take them to, because again, I keep bringing up Wauwatosa, but I was there again. I mean, you walk in them trails and you go to their central location, it's packed with people. Their dogs, their kids in stroller, their farmer's market. It's just a big old, and everybody's friendly, and the day's coming when these businesses that are here, they want to keep the people here because they need employees, to your point, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, you got to look at the big picture. And I have to be careful of this because I'm not on the board. So I sometimes feel like maybe we're competing against a lot of commercial things that are going on in their lives, right? Because there's a lot going on in the village. There's no question about it. So this is, where does this fit in this big picture? And somehow we got to present it where it should fit. You still have residents here, besides all these people moving into the apartments and the Titletown district. And I mean, it's going on all over. You guys are part of it. It's crazy. So I get where they're probably coming from. So I think it's how we just got to go and present it. And hopefully we get it.
And I think you're right. Sometimes it's like trying to move a glacier. It just moves pretty slowly. But if once we can get it moving, you can't stop. So if we can get some of plowed and the residents really like it, it's a popular thing, then it's easier to get the next one plowed, and it's easier to get them all plowed. And if, ideally they would say, great idea, we should have done this before, you're in, but I don't see them doing that. But so we fight for all of it. And
Oh, yeah, and like I said, we have time. If it comes from the July meeting, then that's what the kind of the feedback is, and come back here, talk about it again, and see if we can prioritize and go from there. So who wants to take on the role of presenting and explaining the document? Anybody comfortable with that, to be able to, like Joe said, just kind of go through it? You don't have to read the whole thing, but just summarize and go through it, and it's a pretty clear document.
I've never really done it. I mean,
Run it.
I don't know.
Or someone can take team.
Yeah, I was thinking two people could
We
do
can
it,
do
yeah,
that,
or
yeah.
whatever you feel more
We can do
comfortable.
that too.
So you two willing on that? No?
I'll be at the meeting.
Yeah, meeting?
Yeah, we need to get with the other committee members too and see if we can get them to be a part of it.
Yeah, maybe Jessica would, I don't know. She would.
it would be nice to have somebody from Wellow there too.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Because they just had a nice article in Sunday's paper.
yes. Yeah, we can talk to Lowell and see if they can be there at least to speak on it. Like Mario's online, but maybe if you two don't mind kind of taking the lead,
Yeah.
you could talk to Jessica, maybe someone could reach out, do you mind reach out to Jessica and see if she would feel comfortable with the two, if one of you two aren't real wild about it.
Sure.
You guys can take the lead on that.
Maybe we'll tell her that we elected her.
There you go.
While she wasn't here.
Let's just go all the meeting.
That happens,
So what I'll do then is, I will prepare the green sheet for the village board.
Okay.
So if you can, that's okay, Rex? Sure. Prepare the green sheet then. And the reason for that is, once the green sheet's prepared, then Mary, our village president, knows kind of who to point to introduce the topic.
Okay.
And then I'll introduce the topic and then introduce whomever is present to speak. You guys will be able to come up to the desk, if you will, the microphone, make a presentation. What I can do is I'll have the maps and everything in their packet. And then I can post those on the screen for the elected officials to see. And if there are people watching online, they can see it as well. So you just tell me where you want to go.
Well, I think we do just exactly what you said. We present it as it's itemized. Then the map will come up as we're going through it. Because if they go back and read it later, it's going to sink in better that we went through the same process. So I will be fine. This is, I mean, it's 2 pages.
So I've never made a presentation like this. Do we get up there, introduce ourselves? I'm Kyle. I've been a village resident since 1967.
Yeah, and yeah, give them your address, I mean, the last, what your address is.
Address for the record.
Name and address, and then you can certainly say you've been a resident this long, you've been on Bike Pet Committee this long.
Yeah.
And then Dale can introduce himself, and if Jessica wants to get involved, and then just pick off, you guys can decide who wants to do what part of the document. I think you guys can just pass it off.
So Jessica says she's willing. I will have Susie email both of you and then
You guys-
the three of you can get together and decide what combination, or if it's gonna be the three of you that actually go for it.
So you're gonna wordsmith it and send it off?
I was gonna say, Joel, do you want to wordsmith this, since you're doing the green sheet, do you want that, or do you want me to go back to that document and wordsmith based on what we talked about today?
Tracy, I'll let you do this request form, if that's okay,
Okay,
because you probably have better notes than I have. I just have one note for myself to get to you.
okay,
And then if you want to just pass that on to
to you,
me.
okay,
I will just reference this document in my green sheet.
okay.
As the formal request.
Sounds good. And one more hitch to put in this whole thing, Packer Land Trail, the sheet, the map that you got tonight. The yellow section on that map, about 8/10 of a mile, is actually in Hobart. And like we were talking about at the beginning, I think before the meeting, we're wondering who's clearing that. Hobart is Village, right? Hobart's Village, right? Village of Hobart, in discussions with Joel, and I think Mary had reached out to him as well, said that they probably will not, they don't clear it now and they don't envision clearing it. So then you have the Packer Land Trail with a section that is not cleared. One of the things that if Packer Land ends up being one that we do end up clearing or decide that we're gonna clear, there would be time to reach back to Hobart and see if there is any desire to do it. I know with the Fox River Trail, that took a while to get that done because there's 3 or 4 jurisdictions on that as well. So they work together and they finally have an agreement where, you know, depending on how much of the, how many miles they have, they pay accordingly for the Fox River Trail clearing. So, so that if Hobart is not clearing that and does not clear it, then the village is clearing the south piece and the north piece, and then that middle piece is left. Sometimes that puts pressure on. I know when the Fox River Trail was first going through clearing, and Will worked on this quite a bit, De Pere was not interested in clearing it and getting involved in it. I think it was a year, maybe the first year, they got a lot of pressure. Why is this not being done in the city of De Pere? What's going on here? And they got on board pretty darn quick. So hopefully if we do Packer Land, Hobart will again decide they want to get involved and help out with that as well. So that's just something that needs to come up at village board. The village president had mentioned that to me when I met with her as well. So I just wanted to let you know that so it doesn't come and go, oh, what the heck are we talking about now? So at least you're aware of that. So.
See, the majority is residential territory too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the north end is more commercial,
Right.
but residential. So, okay, anything else on that? Otherwise, I appreciate the people that will present, and we'll just go from there. And thanks for your input, and I'll tweak the document and we'll get that going. All right, next agenda is the review the Green Bay Press Gazette article on bird scooters.
I just, yeah, I
Scooters.
I think for, yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw that in the paper and I know we were, this was a hot topic about a year and a half ago-ish, 2 years ago, when Green was doing that stuff line.
Let's put the green bikes in.
So I know we talked about this quite a bit and I thought, well, here we go again, round 2. So.
And I did, just gave you for your information only, the document, the memorandum of understanding. This is with the city of Green Bay. This is with the bird rider's name. So just so you have this information, understand it. And then also an ordinance that the city of Green Bay put together in regard to the bird documents. They are doing a pilot only, which it says in the article as well. I talked to the chief today, our chief, just to see what his concerns or how he felt about, you know, the scooters and stuff. And his opinion is, let's let Green Bay, and I know Appleton's doing a pilot at this time as well. Let them do the pilot, see how it goes, and see if we want to open it up in the village of Ashwaubenon. With the bikes that Rex talked about, when the bikes were here, they were used in Ashwaubenon, and I would say the places where I saw them most was up in the entertainment district, like at the Interstate Brewery, at Titletown area, up in the northern section of the village is where we saw them more than anywhere. So I'd envision if scooters ever come to the village, that maybe that's the area that we would see them more than anywhere else in the village. So I think, you know, the village maybe wants to wait and see on this and see how it works in Green Bay. And then if it seems like it's going well and it's something that we'd want to get involved in. We could always look at it in the future.
These scooters as well use GPS. So there is the ability to restrict their usage outside of areas that you don't want them to be used in. So if you wanted them just specifically to be used in Titletown district, Titletown and the entertainment district, they can be geo-located.
I always stop when they get outside. They have them all over. So I babysat for my youngest grandchild in Wawatos. They're all over the place. They must just park them wherever they want to, and then you move them around.
I don't know how they get back onto the charging stations. I do have a correspondence with the gal that works for this bird company. So I was gonna give her a call just to get an understanding of how it works to charge the device if they're just left wherever they are. If there's a lady that goes and picks them up.
There is, they have to relocate them and charge them, yeah. And you can also govern them more, right? I know Green Bay is governing them at 15 miles per hour. But let's say a village of Ashwaubenon says, hey, let's try this. We're gonna allow them in the Titletown district. Well, we don't want to go any faster than 10. You could reduce the speed on them and govern them to 10 miles an hour. So there's a lot of different options. It's pretty cool what you can all do
They
with
want to
them.
make money, I'd open them up to like 25.
I could go
That would be
50 on it,
fun.
yeah.
Last week I was and we were happy to be in Oklahoma City. And people were using these things all over the place.
That's the same thing I know.
Just cruising.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
I think my son said he was in Copenhagen on a business trip, and they used them after the bars closed or after bar time or something, so.
Yeah, I mean, they've been in other communities for a while, and some have done really well, and there's been, horrific crashes and other ones. So it's, it's
Yeah,
go
but
too
instead
fast,
of,
they go where they shouldn't,
just had a woman on the East Coast that was killed,
Yeah.
stepped out. But it sounds like with Green Bay, they don't really have any liability here. The liability is between,
burden, but they're gonna pull the city in anyway. I mean, the city will maybe have recreational immunity or whatever. They may not get dragged too far, but the agreement is between bird and that user. But they're gonna try to go out there anyway, especially if it's a really severe injury or a death or something.
but this again is one of those things, if you want to draw
Yeah,
us, I hate to say this, but us older people ain't gonna be here forever. My house is gonna sell to somebody. It's probably gonna be somebody a lot younger that's into this kind of stuff.
yeah.
Right?
So anything else on scooters? Any other questions on that? Anybody? Mario, do you have anything to add on that, or Jeff, the public safety end of it?
Regarding the scooters?
Yeah, the scooters.
Nope,
Any other-
no, not at this point. I think Stefan Hummel from the city of Green Bay, once we have our next Greater Green Bay Active Communities Alliance meeting, I'm sure she'll present on that. So we haven't actually met, we haven't had a meeting since they began to push that forward. So it's only been through email communication, but I would imagine that at that point, she might actually be able to address some of the questions that we were just discussing here. If I remember correctly, in terms of the charging, I believe what this company does is there's actually people that are hired that go out at night to find them, charge them, provide any maintenance. But in terms of where they actually get put, that one I'm not sure about, because as you said, you can just kind of leave it at anywhere. So I'm not sure if that's part of the crew's responsibility, but then if they are bringing it, then where are they kind of making those? I know with Line Bike, they kind of encourage kind of like parking spots. So I would imagine that maybe that's something that they might consider where, yes, there's not technically a docking station, but we're going to have, various points throughout the city of Green Bay that we would, encourage you to return them to. But otherwise, it's kind of just a wait and see until we kind of get an update from the city and how that's going forward.
Okay. Thanks, Mario.
Yes, I'd agree. Just let Green Bay try it. The only spots I'm really thinking that there's going to be use for it would probably be in the Titletown district area. Everything else just seems to be a lot more spread out.
Yeah.
The Titletown one would be interesting just because that's private property.
Yes.
A lot of it is. So.
And they don't let you bike through there.
Right.
So you have to walk your bike through there. So would they want scooters? I mean, they wouldn't. Yeah.
You have to have a discussion with factors.
Yeah. All right, any other comments on that? Otherwise, we'll move on to review and possible action on the 2018 plan projects. Was there a document attached? Did I miss that, or was it just
It is
wrong?
not attached.
Okay. do we want to put it off to next? I mean, it probably hasn't changed too much from before, but just anyway, do we want to put it on the next agenda and get the documents so we can review it?
Yeah, if it's not attached, yeah, we would think.
Okay, so should we just table that or? I just.
I just list no report was given for this month and the next month.
Okay.
I think this is the only thing they have on there, if there was.
Oh, okay. We're gonna add anything to it? Okay.
Tracy, did we go over item 7, site plan review?
We did not, or we skipped the parentheses.
Yeah, I did have a report. He sent a couple of emails out. I just never got to them. So
Okay.
he sent another one out today, and I think it's just somebody's replacing a building or something.
Okay.
But, yeah, I apologize on that. He sent them out. For various reasons, I just didn't get to them.
All right, so then we'll go on to, if no one has anything to add to the plan projects at this point, we will go on to department reports. Rex, anything to add, anything you want to bring up?
Yeah, I can give you an update on a couple projects. So let's just take the Ashwaubenon River Trail. Probably by the second week of August, they should have started the soil sampling in river for the bridge pilings. That's one of the big things we're waiting on, and that will determine the type of piling that needs to be used, how deep it needs to be put into the ground, so on and so forth. It'll be a big cost determinator on the bridge once the soil samples come back. So we've got that going on. So that's going to happen in early August. West Main Trail, I've already talked about that a little bit, but CSMs are the redone CSMs, certified survey map, are complete for the 3 properties that the West Main Avenue Trail would extend upon. I believe they've been recorded. We're all set and done. So right now the project is out for bid with an opening on Tuesday, July 20th. And then we'll go to village board. Well, it might be, but we might be able to hit park board that night with it, just with a quick summary. And then certainly village board for award of the bid on the 27th of July. So that's for the West Main Avenue Trail. Hopefully we can get rolling on that. Because it's with TIP dollars and we need to expend those dollars sooner than later.
This year?
Sherwood Forest Trail, one of our busier parks in terms of walking and exercise that people are going through there constantly. Again, we're putting in, or we want to put in another pathway about a quarter mile, which is a fairly long stretch on the north side of the channel around the pond. Stantec's crew was in there 2 weeks ago. They've actually cleared a 20-foot width from Shady Lane all the way back to the bridges. So we can see now what our challenges are a little bit better with the brush that's been removed and the trees that have been cut down and so on and so forth. We're gonna have to put in 2 culverts. We'll be doing that on our own. We'll be renting some special matting that we'll put in the wetland area to get some of our own equipment through, to haul in stone, as well as to get the portable stump grinder, because there's a lot of things that need to be done through there. And then we're going to take the Bobcat, trying to level stuff out. And once we put the culvert in, we got to push some of the dirt that's mounded along the trail, over the culvert, so on and so forth. The reason really we're able to do this is when that channel was put in back in the day, that was all wetland area. But when they dug that channel out, they pretty much took that dirt and put it all to the north. And so that whole area to the north is no longer, which was legal back then apparently.
Yes.
That's no longer wetland. So that's what the trail is going on. That's why we're able to do the trail, is economically cost effective, as to the cost that we have, which won't be a lot, but we don't have a lot of wetland to go over because that mounded dirt from 30 years ago, that's what the trail is going to be on, so we don't have to worry about that. It's wetland area. So we just need to kind of level that out and connect it to the west. So you can walk it right now. It pretty much follows a footpath that has always been there. It's just open now, so you can kind of see it a little bit better. But you can see what still needs to be done, obviously. A lot of that brush that's in there will eventually be pulled out. If it's in the non-wetland area, it's just going to be blown into the woods or hauled out or left there. But anything that's in the wetland area has to be removed by the time the project is. So we've got another bid out, sorry, long story on this one, for a boardwalk area, because there are still 2 wetland areas that we need to go across, smaller areas, distances. But that bid is due also on July 20th. That opening will be at 10:30. And then that'll go to Park Board and Village Board this month as well. And hopefully we can get that ordered and scheduled for 2021. I know it's kind of late in the game, but it's taken this long to kind of get things to happen, I guess.
So will Sandtech do the rest of the trail except for the boardwalk then? Are they doing that?
Sandtech is done.
They're done. So they just did the clearing and kind of
Yeah.
piecemeal.
So
then
whoever does the boardwalk, part of the bid is whoever we're buying the boardwalk from is also installing.
okay. And then they're doing the trust the trail too, or you guys?
We're doing the trail. So
Okay.
I'm had several meetings already with Glenn, our park foreman, and Tim, our forester, just about what it's going to take. We're probably going to have to rent like well, Tim's already been on it and has checked out a portable stump grinder, which is self-propelled, so we don't have to like use a pickup truck to get it in there, which is nice. As well as we'll probably need a Bobcat, but one with rubber tracks on it instead of wheels. And one of our guys is a really good Bobcat operator, so he does not feel we need a bulldozer or anything. He feels he can get the thing leveled out pretty well with the Bobcat once the larger stumps have been ground out. So it's going to be a project leveling things out, putting the culverts in. Not a big deal. The challenge is going to be there will be literally, 100 or hundreds of loads of crusher dust that will need to be brought in to put the base of the trail in. I mean, because we'll probably put matting down, filter fabric, and then the crusher dust over that at a 4-inch depth. And that's going to be a lot. I mean, it's a quarter mile for a 10-foot trail. So there'll be a lot of material. And you can't drive a truck in there because of the wetland area. So it has to be brought in by very small loads. So that's going to be the biggest time consumer. I don't want to say a challenge, but the biggest time consumer is just laying all that crusher dust. So that's Sherwood Forest, but we're moving along on that as well.
That'd be a nice trail.
It will be.
It's very
I mean, people use that all the time, and this will be nice. It'll be another quarter mile stretch, where people can, instead of walking around the park 3 times, they'll be able to do a series of loops or paths and have some different scenery, which I think will work out well.
That's cool. So also you probably draw some people from the Titletown apartments up there too, right?
Well, if we have to dip into our park development fund, that's how we're selling it.
Okay. And we have that trail on Morris Avenue that gets you halfway there.
Yep. So we probably have about $80,000 or $85,000 in the cell tower fund, which we have for that cell tower being put in on the east side of the street. But anything over that will be taken out of park development funds from some of the Titletown area, because you're right, some of the employees and some of the people that are there certainly may be using, a certain percentage of them certainly may be using the trail. So we could, if it goes over, it won't be by very much, but we feel that's an appropriate use of those funds as well.
Anything else? We don't have a state DOT rep. We do have a public safety. And Susie, if you can change the agenda in the future and put Jeff Panzier, because Jeff, I'm sure you're going to be our contact for a bit.
I hope, yes. Yeah, I don't really have anything to pass on. No significant accidents that I was aware of at all.
Okay, we did talk about the one on Oneida Street when we went out and did our site visit, the one where the bicyclist got hit that was coming counterflow. So we did just, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that crash that you guys determined or anything.
Nope. Again, I wasn't on that one. I don't believe. I believe I was just reading that off the details that I sent you from the case.
Okay. Sounds good.
Jeff, Kyle Jago, I live in the 1400 block of Cormier Road. And one day last week, Wednesday or Thursday, there was a Brown County sheriff that was checking for speeders on Cormier Road. And it looked like a City of Green Bay police car on Shady Lane catching speeders going up or down that hill. Can you tell me what that was about?
Yep. So we have a task force. There's a OWI task force and speeding task force within Brown County. It's a state funded, so it's all reimbursed. And we go to different jurisdictions. I'm sure you've heard of the OWI task force. Basically, we just flood an area with as many officers as we can from other jurisdictions. So if it happens to be in Ashwaubenon, then we would be in that area, flooding the area, and just showing our presence a little more and making stops that way. So it just seems to help that way.
Good, well, we appreciate it.
You live in a tough area, but.
Yeah. All right, schools, we don't have a rep. Wello, Mario, are you gonna be our rep from now on instead of Natalie? Should we change that agenda or are you just filling in today?
I think just filling in today, at least that's what I'm told. So
Okay.
if that should change, it'll be a surprise to us all. But as of right now, I think I'm just filling in.
Okay, sounds good.
So for
That's
that,
the story she's giving.
Yeah.
Tracy, well, so when we do this presentation, do we want to see if they want to be there, or we want them to do any speaking on on paths, and or do they even need to be present?
You could do it either way. Mario, what are your thoughts on Wello? I mean, Wello could send a letter if you can't have a rep there in support of it. You could do that as well. That,
Yeah.
be good. But I don't know if it's something that you guys would want to come and, support, or what your thoughts on that would be.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to talk it over with Natalie. I mean, I think really whatever you felt would have the most impact. I mean, I think us not being residents of Ashwaubenon, obviously we wouldn't want to take away speaking time from people that are directly impacted by this. So, I mean, if a letter of support then makes more sense in that case, we're happy to do that. But if you think, having someone like Natalie speak on behalf of the organization, and we're happy to do that. In either case, we can just kind of talk about what we've seen in other municipalities and the importance and community benefit that you see from doing this kind of work. So again, I think just whatever you think would be most powerful, let us know, and then I'll be happy to pass that along to Natalie. So again, yeah, I think that just my one consideration is just would not want to take away speaking time from, again, Ashwaubenon residents.
All right.
That's the part of the is they have more visibility to other areas than we do.
Right.
We live here.
Right.
I talk about Wauwatosa, but it's only one place.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're used to the local. They're Green Bay. They're
Right.
Galloway. They're
Yeah.
Superior. They're
Yeah.
if possible.
Okay.
Pretty short notice, to be honest with you. So.
And what is the time for that meeting?
It's on the 27th. That might be screwed up. And we start at 6:30.
6:30.
And just check with Natalie, and then if you can't come or she can't come, Mario, maybe a letter would suffice as well. And then
Okay.
that would go to the board and could be, read in the record or whatever. So it would be nice to have, someone there for, like Dale just said, but if you can't make it, I understand you guys are leaving, so.
Okay. Not a problem. All right.
Anything else on your end? Otherwise, I do have some questions for you too.
Sure. Actually, yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about the Yield to Your Neighbor campaign. I think Kyle, or maybe yourself, Tracy, maybe Natalie might have given a brief rundown of what the campaign is, but if not, I can do that quickly. So the Yield to Your Neighbor campaign is a educational marketing campaign that is doing exactly what the name says, getting people to yield to your neighbor. As we've done a lot of work with a lot of community advocates, including Peter Fluke, we realized that as we were telling people to do something, a lot of times people want to know, well, why do you want me to do this? So to go along with the Yield to Your Neighbor actual name, we included a tagline that's giving the reasons why you should yield. why should you yield? So it's safer, it's courteous, and it's the law. So we've slapped that on a t-shirt that's become the logo. So again, it's just the one simple action that people can take. So this launched in early May. And what we've been doing is really just telling people stories through social media and then also local media. So TV stations, radio, newspaper, of their reasons of why they yield to your neighbor. So we have some people that are representing law enforcement. So they're hitting specifically on it's the law portion of yielding. We have others talking about it being courteous. So we have members of bike groups that are, doing community bike rides or, on walking groups and explaining, well, this is why I'm asking you to yield. And then we have some that are, obviously more personal. We had a board member that discussed her cousin being hit by a vehicle while she was in the crosswalk and dying right on contact. So again, just sharing their reasons. And so we do a weekly post that highlights that. This is going at the very least through October with Walk to School Day. Obviously, this message of people yielding to your neighbor is not something that is just restricted just to the summer months. So we will discuss what this looks like moving forward. Just early thoughts, winter is probably really highlighting clearing sidewalks so that people are able to walk. But obviously, roads become slick, and that's even that much more important whether you're on a bike or driving, that we are aware of our neighbors. So and then with the Yield to Your Neighbor campaign, we were also able to bring back the Frogger events, which are the crosswalk education and enforcement events. So we did have to postpone those last year due to COVID. We did bring those back this year. So we were able to have a Brown County Sheriff's Office, Green Bay Police, and De Pere Police take part. We had our first of 3 events on June 24th. The next 2 coming up are July 22nd and August 19th. Those are all about education. One of the biggest messages we try to push with that is it's not an excuse to write tickets. It's not police trying to issue citations. It literally is about educating our community and just really spreading that message across. We are very upfront about when these are happening. We share a Google map that shows the locations and times that these are going to be happening. I did get a report from the Brown County Sheriff's Department. They had a number of drivers that they pulled over who said, oh, yes, I knew this was happening. I saw this and still got pulled over. So showing the need that, yes, people are seeing this is happening, but even with that, still showing the need for these. So again, the next 2 then will be July 22nd. So that is next week, Thursday, and then August 19th will be the 3rd for that. And I think just lastly, we do have t-shirts for the campaign. So if there's anyone in this committee that would like a Yield to Your Neighbor shirt, be happy to get those to you. Right now, we are currently in the midst of transitioning to our new office space. So at that point, then it'll become much easier to have, to stop by and pick up the shirts. Otherwise, at some point, Tracy, if we are at any point, or if I'm the one who ends up attending the meeting, I can always bring some shirts. So I would just need to know sizes, but then I'm happy to get those out. Again, the idea is if we can just get people wearing these shirts, the more eyes that see this message, hopefully that just kind of goes into people's brains and just becomes second nature, that whether you're walking, biking, or driving, just always being aware of everyone that's around us. And really, if we can just yield, how much of an impact that would make to make it safer, easier, and more enjoyable for everyone to to go out and be active, move, get to where they're going, wherever that may be in all of Brown County. So that's just a gist of the campaign. If there's anyone in the committee that wants to share their story, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to share that. Kyle, I'm probably going to be reaching out to you individually. So I'm volunteering you to get involved in that. And otherwise it's been a great success. Like I said, just really getting these stories out there of hearing directly from people and why this is so meaningful to them.
Going back to Frogger.
Yep.
I did talk to the chief today, and I know the Ashwaubenon did not participate in the very first one. He had said that you should reach out to Brian Murphy, the department, and that they would be interested in participating in the next 2.
Okay.
Try to get that set up. So if you can reach out to Brian,
Okay.
he will be able to help you with that. I can send you his email and stuff.
Okay, that'd be perfect. That would be perfect. Yeah, we've also we've reached out to every police department in the county. So the others that declined this year were Oneida, Pulaski, and Wrightstown. So again, at some point, ideally, it'd be nice to have every department represented, really, truly make this a countywide effort. But in the meantime, we just kind of, continue to grow these and I think people are aware that they're happening, and hopefully if we can just reach a point where we don't need them. But until that time, then yeah, we'll have people invest crossing the street.
That sounds good. So yeah, right, reach out to Brian Murphy and hopefully
Okay.
it sounds like he would be able to be interested in participating as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Anything else, Mario, or?
I think that's it on my end. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Public comments. Anybody have any public comments on walking and biking in the community? Yeah, we have not done yet.
Not necessarily public comment, but Joel, I know you had touched base probably with Kurt Wires on having a school district rep. I really feel at some point, not necessarily needing them here every meeting, but I really think we need to have a school district rep. I was very disappointed, quite honestly, with the school district's participation this year in Bike to School. We gave passes once again to Valley View, Parkview, and Pioneer. We got most of our passes back. In fact, Pioneer told me that they just didn't do it because we have a fair amount of kids that are open enrolled, and it's not fair to those kids versus the local kids. And I'm like, I turn it around. It's not fair to the local kids not to do the program because you've got open enrolled kids. You can have the open enrolled kids, parents bring their bikes and have them drop them off at a predetermined spot, you know, at the church up the road or a couple blocks away, and they can still bike in and be eligible for those passes. And I just found it very disappointing that we put the time and effort into making the passes and putting it in our brochure and trying to make this work, and that random decisions per school, we want to do it, we don't want to do it, it'd be nice to have someone here on a regular basis, I think. And I feel that we need to push the school district a little bit more on, and if that means I can make phone calls or whatever, but I think we need our rep back.
Yeah, well, and we always had one, and I think Brad was the rep for a long time, and he was great, you know, and he did a lot. So I agree, I think it would be great to have somebody from school.
I did speak to Keith right before I went on vacation, Keith Lucius, and he was going to talk to Brad again to see if he'd be interested in continuing to serve or come back and serve or find another rep. From
Well, Brad's a little up north, isn't he?
I don't know, I know they're still living over in my neck of the woods.
Are they still in their house?
Yes, they are, yeah. I haven't seen this for sale sign or anything, and I just ran into him the other day, but he's retired.
Right.
He's not school district anymore, not that makes a difference, but.
Well, it kind of does, I mean, for staff
Yeah,
meetings and.
You're right, because
things.
he's not getting that inside info either.
I'll double check with Keith before the next meeting.
I mean, even a gym teacher, but then the gym teacher can't get away either. You know, and some,
Teacher is the one that decided to cancel.
I know exactly what you're talking about, yes.
That was
That's
frustrating.
good, yeah, it's frustrating, it's been frustrating with them for a long time. Yes.
The response you got is a little frustrating to you here because we're educating our residents. I realize people are coming into the district, but
We all
they're
do.
residents of Ashwaubenon.
But there's ways to make it work for them.
There is, absolutely. Yeah. I just have one quick one. Tim and I, the forester, and I met out by the Olive Garden that came up at our last meeting, but you cannot see pulling out of the Olive Garden onto Oneida Street when you're looking southbound. It's very difficult. So Tim and I met out there. We talked about it. We looked at it. He has some great ideas on removal of one tree, pruning up a bunch of branches on another tree. I talked to him today because we met on May 17th, so it's been a while. And he said he had passed off to you two. So you two were doing something or the other. I'm trying to figure that out.
I push it back to Tim. We're fine with him contacting the Bayside Marketplace Management as well as Olive Garden. And I talked with Tim this afternoon, and he was going to try and get some kind of meeting on site with those two, just getting sure everyone's on the same page about removal of that one tree and potentially trimming the other one. So.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so a couple of the challenges, one, we needed to verify and confirm ownership of the building, of the property. These trees are located on private property. They're not in the right of way or within what would be designated by code in the vision triangle.
They're
We
not
have-
living triangle.
No, they're not. They could be
This is a private
considered
drive.
a vision nuisance.
Okay, that's what I was
That's the
thinking.
way around it.
Okay,
We had to kind of double check to see what opportunities we would have from a legal sense to do anything at all. We are limited, so we are trying to work directly with the property owners to grant us permission to do the removal and the pruning. Now, they could come back and say, no, go
Yeah.
on sand. And then at that point, we'll have to determine a different path, but so that's part of the challenge, is determining who the owner is, determining what legal rights they have, or what rights we have in pruning or removing the trees, and then really just kind of being good stewards about it and saying, we're willing to do the work, we
right.
just need to have your formal permission to do it, so that we don't get into any kind of trouble.
The curvature of the road just makes it odd.
Yeah, it makes it even harder.
If it was a straight line, it wouldn't be, if the road was straight, it wouldn't be an issue because it wouldn't be in the vision triangle, but because it loops around it.
Yeah,
It
it
just-
makes it even more, because you're almost looking around the
Right.
corner.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're halfway pulled out before you
Yes.
can actually see, and by then you might as well just go.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, we're trying to help their customers
Right.
To
to make
enter
it-
and leave
yes.
their business safely, so we're gonna take that.
Okay, sounds good. So it's in Tim's court now, and he's got permission to go ahead and meet with the two property owners and see what he can come up with. So hopefully sooner than later, they'll get that cleared up one way or the other. You just keep us posted if it gets held up again, just so we kind of know where it's at. And then the only other thing I was gonna mention, I will not be available for the August 9th meeting with this committee. So I don't know if you want to change it, or then you guys can hold a meeting and get someone else that can run the meeting, that's fine too. So. but I will-
Who's our vice chair? Maybe that's our way to get
We
legal
don't
back
have a
here.
vice chair. do we? Yeah, we, yeah.
Where is that guy?
I thought we liked it, Jessica.
Well, we kind of.
Did we do a vice chair?
I thought we did.
Yeah, we did. We
I
did.
thought we did.
It's Jessica,
Yes,
you're right.
yeah, okay.
Because I thought you missed the meeting. No.
I just like to give Leroy a hard time.
I know.
This is all I think about it. Just tell me what I gotta do.
Okay, so leave the meeting on, and then Jessica is going to get the whole chair, so just, so you know, I won't be at the meeting, so.
If you want, I mean, I'm fine too, if you wanna do it a week later or something, I'm not, are you on vacation?
I'm just gone from the 5th through the 12th. I'll be gone.
Should we test Jessica, see if she wants to? What do you think?
Yeah, let's just test
This
it.
is what happens when you're at the meeting. Number one, now she's gonna be presenting to the
Yeah.
village board, and now she's gonna chair a meeting.
She's not gonna miss it again.
Stop.
Okay, so we'll leave the meeting on the 9th, and Jessica will run it and run it very well, so we'll be all set. Any other public comment on Walk Like anybody else has? If they wanted to bring up?
No, I will question if you're done for Joel, but not a public comment.
Okay, then next bike bed, the meeting is August 9th. And then we need a motion to adjourn unless you had something you want to ask during the
Yeah,
meeting.
no, so we're gonna do this presentation, I want to be prepared, so when I go into this, because I'm assuming, would you just have this document? You would bring this up on the,
And I can show it up on the screen.
so if we want to speak to it, because I look at the asterisk and all this stuff, and I'm like, would you be willing to speak to it, or should we speak to it?
No, I can.
I mean, because most of it's pretty understandable, right? Miles of snow and ice removal, it's got the, but then I look at the three asterisks that says, see village policy on snow removal, we're not gonna supply them with that, right?
Yeah, the way it's set up is, those are actually hyperlinks, so when they do get their packet
Oh.
electronically, they could click
That
on
is
it
Oh,
and see the ordinance language. that
Oh.
So they would have the capability of doing that if they were.
okay. Okay. I guess I would, if you're willing, I would appreciate it because you really supported us with this whole, it'd be nice, we'll bring it up and we can just mention that if there's any questions on that.
All right, anything else? Otherwise, I would make a motion to adjourn, somebody.
So before we adjourn, so the idea here is you're going to
we're gonna wordsmith it. You're gonna send it to Kyle, myself.
Yeah, I'll get it out to them.
You guys are reaching out to Jessica, we're not.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll reach out to Jessica, right?
She says no, then I'm gonna reach out to her.
Okay.
And that you're planning on being there? Just, you should. I mean, if you can, just in the background, or come up with us, you want to speak. Then we'll just say, well, she's gonna speak.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just.
So just at the end, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, but I think it's important as a team.
Yeah.
I really do. The more people we have, the better off I think we're gonna be, just like Joel said.
I have a few residents that are gonna come as well, that, kind of the lady that kind of talked to me about this very early on. Her and her daughter are gonna come. Her daughter's in a wheelchair, lives down in the south end of Pacoan, can't get up to the gas station that she goes to year round except for when the trail's covered. So I know they're coming for sure. Another woman in my neighborhood sounds like she will be there because I ran into her when I was campaigning. She's very interested in being cleared. I don't want 1 million people there. I think it's just a very limited amount. I know that Ashwaubenon River Trail has a lot of people down there that are and I don't know if one person down there could reach out to one person down there and say, would you come or would you write a letter? Because then it's the different areas. Sand Acres, there's another woman in Sand Acres that is very much like this needs to be.
So they allow public to speak after we present it?
Yes, I'm sure they would. The village board would have to open the floor, but I'm sure they would open the floor for people to speak. But I know there's people in areas that I know of that are planning to come or at least send a letter in support of the trails being cleared. Because there is some interest in it. People are kind of excited about the fact that it's at least going to the village board. So.
Tracy, do they know how quickly those letters would have to get here in order to be
I will
included?
tell them, when do you need it by, like the Monday prior to, or?
But, yeah, so if I got meetings on the 27th, if I got all the letters to me so that I can compile them as part of the packet, I would say the 21st.
Okay.
And they should go to whom? Directly to Joel, or how?
Send them to you? Do you want them?
That's fine. Yeah,
To Joel,
that's fine.
okay. Okay, so yeah, if anyone's sending letters, I'll have them send them directly to you, and then, anyone that's coming, I'll just tell them that, hopefully the board, I'll make a motion to open the floor to the public, and I don't allow the public to speak, it's good, they're not gonna not allow them, so. But that's, anything else, anybody? Otherwise,
We'll make a motion to.
Okay. Motion by Dale to adjourn. You have a second?
Oh.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned at 5:01. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.